Oluwasi was one of the most beautiful coastal towns in West Africa, right on the edge of the deep ocean waters. It was where the slow breeze drifted from the sea onto the shore, and where the wide blue skies melted into the ocean. It was also a place devoted to Olu-Run, the god of storms. Every morning, a mist would rise from the ocean and wrap the shore, filling the town with a mystical calm that settled deep into people's hearts. But Olu-Run wasn't just a protector, he was powerful, and could be dangerous too. The townspeople feared his wrath, but believed that as long as they stayed loyal, his protection and blessings would follow. Living close to the sea and in harmony with nature, their devotion to Olu-Run was woven into every part of their lives. ADESUWA grew up in this town. From the time she was a little girl, her family raised her to become a priestess dedicated to Olu-Run. At the coastal temple, she was taught the sacred rituals tied to the sea, daily prayers, and unwavering loyalty to her god's commands. Protecting the town from Olu-Run's anger and bringing blessings to her people became ADESUWA's sole mission. She accepted this life as her purpose. Her heart focused on the peace that came from serving her god. But one morning, a fisherman named Afolabi arrived in the town. He was a simple, brave man who lived in harmony with the sea. Afolabi's arrival would change ADESUWA's life forever. In no time, Afolabi became one of the most trusted fishermen in the town, and the depth in his eyes started to draw ADESUWA's attention. Every day, the clouds in the sky and the roaring waves of the ocean seemed to mirror Afolabi's calm and patient nature. Afolabi's gaze always brought a sense of peace and security to the town. But for ADESUWA, those eyes signaled the beginning of a new destiny. When they first met, ADESUWA acted distant toward him. She was a priestess, devoted only to her god, and the warmth she saw in Afolabi's eyes caught her off guard. For someone in her position, the kind of affection reflected in Afolabi's gaze was strictly forbidden. Still, every day, his courage and steady presence stirred a hidden longing inside her. She found herself torn between her devotion to Olu-Run and these unfamiliar feelings. While Afolabi made his living as a fisherman, ADESUWA continued her sacred duties, but the connection between them started to turn into something deeper. Inside, ADESUWA's conflict grew stronger. Her feelings for Afolabi clashed with the responsibilities she carried as a priestess. Even though her loyalty to Olu-Run and her vows were supposed to come first, there was something in Afolabi's eyes that shook her. When she felt the trust and affection in him, she wasn't sure how to balance that with her loyalty to her god. The fear of Olu-Run's wrath battled with the love blossoming in her heart, and with every passing day, the struggle became harder to ignore. One morning, ADESUWA and Afolabi crossed paths by the shore. Afolabi, offering the fish he had caught from the sea, said, "ADESUWA, I brought these for you. I want to share my love for nature with you." His words echoed deeply inside her. In Afolabi's eyes, there was not just strength and courage, there was something mysterious and tender. Even though she tried to look away, her feelings for Afolabi kept growing stronger. She tried to cover them up with her devotion to her god, but every day it became more impossible. One evening, Afolabi finally opened up about his true feelings. As they walked toward the high cliffs overlooking the sea, there was a calmness in his eyes. ADESUWA had always been tied tightly to her vows of secrecy, loyalty, and service. But that moment, Afolabi's words woke something deep inside her. "ADESUWA, I love you. I want you by my side. I know your heart belongs to your god, but I want to share my life with you too." Fear tightened its grip on ADESUWA's heart. Her love for Afolabi now threatened her devotion to her god. But when she looked into his eyes, she could feel his sincerity. The emotions and mysterious pull inside her stirred a new kind of trust. Afolabi's love made her realize she might be paying a heavy price for her loyalty to the divine. One night, the storm god Olu-Run made his judgment. As darkness blanketed the town, Olu-Run's watchful eye prepared to reveal the true cost of everything that had unfolded between ADESUWA and Afolabi. ADESUWA could feel the storm inside her heart growing stronger with every passing minute. As a priestess devoted to Olu-Run, she had spent years serving the storm god with loyalty and discipline. But the love she felt for Afolabi, the way it clashed with her devotion to her god, was tearing her apart. She was standing at a crossroads between her duty and her heart, and deep down, she had no idea what to do anymore. In the end, the love she had hidden away became too strong to ignore. She made her choice. Running away with Afolabi would be her symbol of freedom and of love. That morning, as the townspeople headed to the temple for the final initiation ceremony, ADESUWA and Afolabi decided to leave the village behind. Fear tugged at ADESUWA's heart. She knew betraying her god would come at a price. She knew Olu-Run's wrath could destroy them, but she let her love guide her. Late that night, ADESUWA and AFOLABI slipped away from the village. As they moved deeper into the dark forests, ADESUWA felt the weight of what they were doing. She was trying to outrun the watchful eyes of the storm god, and AFOLABI stayed close to her, offering silent strength. But as soon as they crossed the edge of the village, the skies began to change. Olu-Run's eyes darkened above them, and the god's fury started to awaken. The winds picked up, the sky grew heavy, and the thunder echoed a terrifying message. The storm was coming. Their escape shook the town to its core. The people were terrified, knowing Olu-Run's wrath could wipe them out. They fled to the temples, praying desperately for mercy. The storm god's anger was now a living, breathing force, creeping toward them with every crash of thunder. Meanwhile, ADESUWA and AFOLABI pushed deeper into the forest. Part of them felt free, finally together, but the tension was growing heavier by the second. Even standing next to AFOLABI, feeling the thrill of freedom, ADESUWA couldn't escape the guilt creeping into her heart. Every time she looked up and saw the storm twisting through the sky, the weight of what they had done pressed down harder. Olu-Run's anger grew stronger by the minute, his power becoming something you could almost see in the air. The storm was moving in fast, and when the rain hit, it would bring winds strong enough to tear the village apart. Thunder rumbled, mixing with the crashing of the waves, leaving the villagers frozen in fear. The people realized the price of Olu-Run's wrath was about to fall on them. They rushed into the temples, praying desperately for forgiveness, begging for mercy. Everyone knew it was ADESUWA and AFOLABI's escape that had triggered this. Olu-Run had made his decision to test the spirits of his people with a fury that couldn't be ignored. While the village sat under the crushing weight of the storm, AFOLABI and ADESUWA made a choice. AFOLABI grabbed ADESUWA's hand, trying to steady her, trying to give her hope. They clung to each other, feeling the weight of Olu-Run's gaze bearing down on them. The storm's fury wasn't just a threat to the village anymore, it was the price they had to pay for their love. By morning, the full force of Olu-Run's anger was impossible to ignore. The villagers listened helplessly as the dark waters of the ocean roared louder, the ground trembling under the weight of the thunder. AFOLABI was willing to risk everything to protect ADESUWA, but it was clear now the fate of the village was being dragged into this storm too. As the winds tore through the town, ADESUWA realized what she couldn't deny any longer. Their escape had unleashed the full rage of Olu-Run. The fear inside her grew stronger with every crack of thunder, every flash of lightning. AFOLABI held her close and whispered, "I'll protect you, always." But they both knew love alone wouldn't be enough. To stop the storm, they would have to make a true sacrifice. AFOLABI told ADESUWA she needed to return to the village and that he would go on a journey to calm Olu-Run's anger. He was headed to the sacred mountain. From the very first steps of his journey, a deep unease settled inside him. He carried the weight of the storm god's wrath destruction it had already brought to the village and the people. When AFOLABI left to protect ADESUWA, he hadn't just risked her life. He had accepted the risk of changing the fate of the entire village. This journey would test him, not just physically, but deep in his soul. In the first days of his journey, AFOLABI walked through thick, humid forests, and tears silently slid down his cheeks. The fear of Olu-Run's anger clung to him with every step. It was like the roar of the ocean, and the thunder in the sky only now. The storm raged inside him too. But as he moved closer to the river's edge, his gaze grew more determined. Even as he ran from the storm, his longing for ADESUWA became something even bigger inside him, a fire that kept him going. There was darkness inside him. Yes, but there was real hope, too. One night, under a dark, endless sky, AFOLABI reached the banks of a great river. Exhausted and broken, he still found the strength to keep moving forward. And then, out of nowhere, a spirit appeared. It was a river spirit, a mysterious being, rising up from the depths. The spirit stood before AFOLABI and spoke. "AFOLABI, this is as far as your path alone can take you. The only way to calm Olu-Run's fury is through true sacrifice and love. The spirits of the rivers and the skies can help you, but the deeper your sacrifice, the longer and harder your journey will be." As AFOLABI listened, he felt the spirit's words weigh heavy on his heart. The spirit continued. "To reach the god, you must make a journey not just through the world, but through your own soul. This path will teach you everything you need to know about sacrifice, courage, and what it truly takes to calm Olu-Run's rage." The spirit started to share secret knowledge with AFOLABI. It taught him the prayers he needed to say, how to perform the rituals correctly, the sacred words that could calm the god's wrath. But these teachings weren't for just anyone. They were only given to those with a pure heart. Afolabi's heart was pure because of his love for ADESUWA. Still, this journey wasn't just about love. It was about sacrifice, too. As Afolabi's journey deepened, the old spirit showed him the true value of wisdom and courage. The spirit guided him like a shadow, appearing each night to offer a new lesson. It taught him that the sacrifice he made for ADESUWA's life had to be tied to a love that was true and selfless. Every ritual, every prayer made Afolabi's spirit stronger and wiser. The spirit didn't just give him knowledge, it also gave him real inner strength, courage, and determination. One day, Afolabi climbed to the top of a mountain, reaching the peak of his journey. There, he began the final preparations to calm Olu-Run's fury. The god watched from above, seeing Afolabi's courage and the pure love in his heart. But Afolabi's sacrifice and true longing would still have to pass one final, powerful test. Meanwhile, ADESUWA was at the temple, praying with all her heart to calm Olu-Run's anger. Day after day, she prayed with patience, crying out to the rain goddess for help. The goddess saw the deep longing and powerful love in ADESUWA's eyes. She spoke to ADESUWA and said, "Your heart is pure, but real peace and forgiveness require a love that's willing to sacrifice everything. Afolabi has risked it all for you. Calming the god's fury will take a heart that beats not just for itself, but for the salvation of an entire people." As ADESUWA prayed, her love for Afolabi, who had given up everything for her, shined even brighter. The true strength within ADESUWA grew, fueled by Afolabi's sacrifice. Together, they had created a bond, a unity of spirit and heart. As Afolabi neared the peak of the mountains, he carried a heavy weight in his soul. This journey to protect ADESUWA and calm Olu-Run's fury wasn't just a mission, it was a sacrifice. He knew he would have to pay a price to save ADESUWA's life and soothe the god's wrath. But that price wouldn't just fall on him. It could affect the whole village, maybe even all the people he cared about. With every step, Afolabi felt the burden grow heavier, the true cost of what he was about to do sinking deeper into his heart. Still, in his eyes burned a fierce determination, a quiet strength that showed he would do whatever it took for the future of his village and for ADESUWA's life. Each step forward, through roaring storms and deafening thunder, was a test of his courage. As he climbed higher, toward the storm god's palace hidden deep within the sky, the battle inside him grew fiercer, fear pulling at him on one side and a powerful will pushing him forward on the other. Afolabi wasn't just approaching Olu-Run as a man, he was standing before him as a spirit, ready to be tested. The fear of facing the god was overwhelming, but with that fear came the chance to prove the strength of his heart. When Afolabi finally reached the summit, the sky had darkened into a deep, heavy black. The thunder didn't just shake, the land it shook something inside him. The storm closing in around him felt like a living force, testing him with every gust of wind and crack of lightning. But Afolabi didn't hesitate for a second. When he locked eyes with the god, it felt like the whole world had narrowed into that single moment. Olu-Run was a force of terror, powerful enough to shake the hearts of all who lived below. But Afolabi stood tall, steady, armed only with the strength of his heart. And as the god stared deep into his soul, Afolabi's courage shined through, showing the heart of a true leader. When the god looked at Afolabi, he saw the courage and loyalty burning inside him. Afolabi's spirit, shaped by his sacrifice for ADESUWA, was being put to the ultimate test. The god, with a voice that seemed to roll down from the heavens themselves, watched Afolabi's every move, weighing the heart of the man who dared stand before him. Afolabi stood under the god's heavy gaze, knowing this was a moment of destiny. Then the god spoke. "Your courage and sacrifice have moved me, Afolabi. But remember, true love and true sacrifice are only given to souls willing to pay the full price." As Afolabi listened to that deep, thunderous voice, he knew he wasn't just fighting for ADESUWA. He was fighting for everyone back in the village, too. Standing before Olu-Run, he could feel the god's gaze cutting straight into him, searching every corner of his heart. The god saw it all, the love Afolabi held for ADESUWA, the loyalty he carried for his people, but that wasn't enough. The god decided there had to be one final test. He needed to see the true depths of Afolabi's sacrifice. "Afolabi," the god said, "your love is powerful, but real sacrifice means giving everything, even your own life. If you want to save the village and ADESUWA, you might have to give yourself up." Fear flashed in Afolabi's eyes, but underneath it, there was something stronger, a deep acceptance. If that's what it took to save ADESUWA, he would do it. In that moment, standing beneath the storm and staring into the god's eyes, Afolabi made his decision. He was willing to pay any price, even if it meant giving up his life. He would fight to the very end to protect ADESUWA and his people. The god watched closely. Faced with Afolabi's courage and selfless love, even Olu-Run had to make a decision. He realized he needed to truly understand Afolabi's spirit before passing judgment. The final test was set. Olu-Run looked at Afolabi with something close to admiration in his eyes. "Your courage is great, Afolabi," the god said. "But now I will make my decision." In that instant, the god's judgment became clear. Instead of taking Afolabi's life, he chose to grant him mercy and to bring ADESUWA back under his protection. But there was one condition. ADESUWA had to return to the god's service. Afolabi, by choosing to protect ADESUWA instead of sacrificing himself, had shown a different kind of bravery. The god honored Afolabi's courage and sacrifice by sparing his life. But ADESUWA's destiny would still be tied to the divine. Olu-Run lit up the sky with a sudden burst of blue light. The storm slowed. The thunder faded into silence. And standing there, Afolabi accepted the god's decision with an open heart. ADESUWA's life would no longer be weighed down by the god's anger. True peace had been restored. Afolabi had paid the price through love, sacrifice, and loyalty. He had saved the woman he loved, saved the village, and proven himself a true hero. And from that day forward, he never returned to the village. His story lived on, whispered by the waves and carried by the winds. If this journey touched your heart, and you'd like to hear more magical stories, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. With your support, we'll keep bringing new legends to life.